Morning. We have a quorum and it is the appointed time. Let us call the meeting to order. First of all, we'd like to invite the administration team to come in and also the deputations. Let us invite them to come in. Today we are going to meet 23 deputations and individuals. The list is tabled. You also have a seating plan in front of you. Let us wait for the deputations to come in. 死啦，有個字都唔。Thank you. Attending today from the administration, we have the Undersecretary for Food and Health. We also have Mr. Liang Wing-Yan and a whole team with us. I won't read out the names of all officials because you have the list of names in front of you. I'd like to remind the deputations and individuals attending the meeting today, you can freely use the earpiece and also the microphone. Floor is channel 1. Actually, channel 0 is the floor, channel 1 is Cantonese, channel 2 is English, and channel 3 is Putonghua. To facilitate simultaneous interpretation, please only speak in one language and do not use a mixed code. I also like to remind deputations and individuals that your oral remarks made at this meeting will not be covered or exempted by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Neither will the submissions you have given. They will not be covered by that ordinance. Also like to remind you that when you attend meetings in the electrical complex and also if you are in the public gallery, I believe you need to avail yourselves to the note on security arrangements. You must have received a copy in the letter sent to you from the Secretariat, and it is also tabled. If you'd like to see a copy now, and if you are in the public gallery, please ask for a copy from the security staff. Today we are receiving 23 deputations and individuals. Each will have 3 minutes to speak. I hope you will limit your remarks to 3 minutes so that we still have time to have an exchange with members and officials afterwards. Also, I'd like to remind deputations and individuals that if you have a submission but have not given it to us, please do leave a copy with us after the meeting with the Secretariat, so we can channel it to the officials and also members who have not attended the meeting. So without further ado, let us have the Leche League Hong Kong, Ms. Cecilia Wong, to speak. Thank you, Chairman. We are a non-profit making organization. We support mothers who breastfeed their babies. We have a history of 59 years, and we have been called an authority by the WHO, and also we are a member of the International Children Fund. We have already said 2 years ago that the administration should waste no time to control misleading and exaggerated advertising by baby formula producers. We have had 2 years after that, and we welcome the code, the Hong Kong code. But then there is this stipulation in the code which does not exactly say that baby formula should not hail itself to be better than breast milk. Now, if you look at the advertisements, they will say if you want your babies to have high IQ or good musical performance, or if you don't want your babies to have eczema, you should eat a certain brand of baby formula. It seems they are saying that baby formula would be the same or as good as breastfeeding. Now, I think we should waste no time in putting in place the Hong Kong Code of Marketing and Quality of Formula and Related Products and Food Products for Infants and Young Children. Human babies should have human milk so that they can grow up healthily. All along, our league has been in contact with breastfeeding mothers in Hong Kong, and we have arranged meetings, and we also have a helpline set up. Sometimes we also go to their homes to visit breastfeeding mothers to support them. So we understand the situation firsthand. We know the situation about these mothers. We understand that now there is no control on advertising, and it is causing difficulties for mothers with newborn babies. Very often, the mothers we are in contact with are pressurized by their husband or family members to change to baby formula, and we can only help to soothe their emotions. Hong Kong has economic freedom, but baby formula is not just any other product or commodity. It is not as if we are choosing a shampoo or other products. You cannot promote baby formula as it is shampoo because breastfeeding has been established to be the best mode for feeding babies. It is not a matter of lifestyle. So we are asking the administration to expedite the implementation of the code and also penalize exaggerated and misrepresentation of and advertising from the advertisers. I'd like to remind you that actually today we are talking about Food and Drug Composition and Labeling Amendment Regulation, and maybe you may be commenting on the Hong Kong Code in a moment, but please do concentrate on the amendment regulation when you speak. Second, from the Liberal Party, Mr. Peter Shiu, convener. Thank you. The labeling requirements on prepackaged food does not include baby food for babies under 36 months old. If the producers can list all the nutrients for the choice of mothers, I think that is something good, and therefore the Liberal Party supports the new regulation. But we'd like to mention a few points.
First, in previous legislation, the administration cared for the leading suppliers. That, of course, can be acceptable, but they should also care for the small and medium-sized suppliers. The administration just make reference to a few big leading baby formula suppliers, but in fact there are hundreds of brands, and these small and medium-sized producers will have to prepare themselves within the 18 months of grace period. The shelf life of baby formula is about 2 to 3 years, so 18 months may be too short for a turnover. So is it possible to give exemption if the baby formula has arrived before the gazettal? And now you separate the the infant formula from young children formula, that will make the SMEs difficult to comply. They need also to talk to the suppliers or manufacturers. So is it possible to extend the exemption period or grace period to 24 months? As for the code, there was a legislative proposal on allergens, and you spent about 18 months to come up with the code, and that creates difficulties for the retailers. The code or the technical guidelines or code for prepackaged food may take the same period of time. I think you should make reference to the Codex guidelines and publish the guidelines as soon as possible so that those stakeholders can accommodate the situation. Next, Mr. Pon of the DAB of Hong Kong. Thank you, Chairman. With regard to the food labeling system, we have the following view. With regard to baby formula and young children food, I think there is a duplication in delineation, and that may cause confusion. A clearer demarcation arrangement is to extend baby formula to 0 to 1 year old and young children to from 1 to 3 year old. Or 3 years old, rather. We believe that there should be the introduction of the requirement of the codex for labeling. Apart from breastfeeding, baby formula is the only source of food for young children and babies, and therefore the control should be stricter. Expenditure on baby formula advertising has been increasing. In 2010, $1.5 billion, and in 2 years' time, $1.7 billion, or $2.7 billion. And the advertising also adopt claims which are very controversial, and that is not desirable for the growth of infants and young children. The amendment will not control the claims. We urge the administration to look into the claims and also the options for regulating the claims and consult local and overseas experts. Apart from legislation, the administration should educate those who care for children on the concept of balanced nutrition so as to ensure healthy growth for young children. Next, Ms. Choi of the Hong Kong Breastfeeding Mothers Association. You may find it strange that suddenly there is a large number of mothers who are asking for promotion of breastfeeding. We thank the UN for pulling us together to promote breastfeeding. And when we collect signatures, we've come across many misunderstandings. They say that advertising is information and providing breastfeeding up to 6 months is adequate, and few mothers in Hong Kong are able to breastfeed their children. These are all myths, and they are all wrong. But because of time constraint, we cannot speak on these. Many of our friends and relatives, many of those who need our counseling, they experience they felt that it was not successful. Probably because of hormone influence. We believe that breastfeeding is the best. And yet we are being bombarded by baby formula advertisements, and our fellow mothers have not been successful in breastfeeding, and we just give up. That is a very crucial issue. You have just put forth the first step, but there's still a long way. Baby formula suppliers are very strong. They have a lot of money and power, but we don't. There are a number of technical issues we have to deal with. We understand that that can be dealt with within the consultation period. Next will be to legislate on nutrition and on nutritional claims. We know that it is difficult. There's a long way, but I hope that LegCo members can reflect the views of breastfeeding mothers. Before there's legislation, there can be a Hong Kong code, and the Hong Kong code that covers claims have to be published first. There are babies born every day. We should give them a good environment for growth. Next is with Hong Kong, Ms. C. Thank you, Chairman. We promote baby and infant and young children health. We support the amendment with regard to the requirement of prepackaged food, labeling and composition, nutrition labeling and composition. There should be regulation, and we support that. We believe that the regulation will help to fill the gap of the present labeling system. A reliable labeling system is able to provide information so that parents can make an informed choice. We believe that the proposals are feasible generally. As for the grace period, in the technical meeting, we said that because new requirement and related provisions, and also the tolerance limits, we need to adjust our formula. We need to conduct stability tests, and each test may require 3 to 6 months. We also need time to prepare the labels. The procedures are very complicated. We believe 24 months is a more reasonable grace period. In implementing the nutrition labeling scheme, the administration did introduce a 24-month period. We heard that there are calls for a shorter grace period, and we are willing to compromise, and that is to accept 18 months for infant formula and 24 months for follow-up formula and prepackaged food for infants and young children, to balance the call of the public and the needs of the industry. Further reduction will make compliance very difficult, and there will be short-term shortage in supply of products. We are also concerned that the administration has not published the technical guideline. They are about details, say the testing methods that will be adopted by the administration. That's very important to the trade to comply with the law. The grace period is very short, and to facilitate our work, I hope that the administration can release the technical guidelines as soon as possible. Next is Mr. Chung of the Hong Kong Infant and Young Child Nutrition Association. We have 6 members, and we support the administration's proposal of regulating the prepackaged food for infant and young children between the age of 36 months. The regulation will provide standardized information so that parents can make an informed choice. On behalf of members, I want to make 3 points. First, concerning the grace period, we agree with the proposal of some LegCo members to standardize the grace period. The grace period should be set at 24 months. that is based on the experience of production and distribution of baby formula. To comply with new requirements, we need to have adequate time. We need to follow procedure, test our formula, redefine the formula content, and then test the stability, so on and so forth, change the label, make shipping arrangements, and make good replacement. Now, the grace period for baby formula is 18 months, and for follow-up formula and prepackaged food, 24 months. Some of the members find that 18 months a period too short. If it's all standardized to 18 months, then the trade will face difficulties and will not be able to replace all the products within the grace period. We also believe that an adequate grace period will enable better compliance. The amendment is by negative vetting. The grace period has already started, but the technical guidelines have not been promulgated. There is a technical reference, including the tolerance limits, nutrition labeling, these are important bases. I hope that you should publish the guidelines as early as possible so that we comply. I hope the Center for Food Safety should provide the testing methods, acceptable testing methods for our reference, so that we can discuss it and ensure the quality of tests. Next is Dr. Yip of the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative Hong Kong Association. Now, our association has already provided the written submission. I want to make 3 points. Since that is legislation, then the provisions in the code can be deleted. But I think for claims and nutrition and health claims, they should remain. We don't agree with the administration that there is no consensus in the international community concerning claims. If there is adequate evidence to show that it is healthy for children, then each brand should have this ingredient, and there shouldn't be any need for claims. In fact, the claims are just to promote the sale of baby formula and undermine breastfeeding. In fact, the WHO in 2005 has already pointed out that unless there is legislation, there shouldn't be any nutritional claims for baby formula and also follow-up and also for young children food. So we shouldn't allow such claims unless there is any legislative control. And such claims should not be deleted from the Hong Kong Code. Different countries, because of different local circumstances, have different ways of dealing with the claims. The follow-up formulas make use of claims in order to promote both formula milk and to promote formula milk, and mothers are being persuaded to believe that there are certain ingredients which are only available in formula milk. In fact, formula milk, excessive consumption of formula milk will only lead to imbalance of imbalanced growth, and many small children are suffering from obesity because of drinking too much formula milk. Concerning food labeling for people aged 36 months, the labeling has spent 8 years before it can be fully implemented. Now, if you want to control claims and you want and you've heard the controversy, if we are to wait for the legislation, we may need to wait for even longer period of time, and that will be unfair to mothers and also babies.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Hector Solorio from Mead Johnson, please.
Dear Madam Chairman and honorable members, I represent Mead Johnson Nutrition, and I am responsible for the company's research and development in Asia Pacific. Thanks for the opportunity for us to share our views. My background is in scientific research with a doctorate degree in nutrition and food science and specialize in dairy process and dairy chemistry. So I hope to bring to members some views from science and technology perspective. We fully support the government legislation for the composition and labeling for infant formula and follow-on formula. We also appreciate the efforts by the Center for Food Safety in discussing with us on technical details in the past months. Mead Johnson Nutrition is committed to research and innovation. We take pediatric nutrition very seriously. It is our top priority to ensure that all our products meet local regulations and also the highest international standards. I understand a key topic today is to discuss the grace period, so please allow me to explain from a technological point of view the necessary process and steps we need to go through to ensure compliance with the new regulation. All of our products sold in Hong Kong are manufactured in either the Netherlands or the United States. We follow codex and also all local regulations. Under the new regulations, some of the nutrients label declarations have to be changed, and reformulation may also take place for either product innovation or to manage changes in ingredients. This process covers 4 general phases. The first phase is formulation assessment and design. This is when our nutrition scientists establish the science basis and specifies the target nutrient levels. Afterwards, the product development scientists identify proper ingredients and put together the formulations for the product. The formulation is then tested, starting in a laboratory, moves on to pilot plant, and eventually in production plant. New analytical methods are selected at this point. The second phase is a stability study. Successful product produced during the trials is placed in a stability study to ensure that all nutrient meet labels declarations at the end of the shelf life. Package labels are designed in this phase. The third phase is commercialization, when mass quantities of ingredients and packaging materials are ordered and tested. Production plan is prepared and time scheduled, finished product is manufactured and tested and shipped to Hong Kong. The last phase is marketing phase and replenishment. All products are clear in the marketplace and new products are distributed. I would like to emphasize that label changes requirements under the new regulations do not imply there are currently any quality or safety issues with formula produced sold in Hong Kong. All of our products currently meet codex guidelines and international standards. Our infant formula products undergo over 2,000 quality control checks through the manufacturing process, from raw materials to finished products. We see the new regulations as an important step in helping consumers get better nutrition information from product label. To ensure a smooth transition and introduction of products with new labels into Hong Kong, a sufficient grace period is important. We will therefore like to suggest that the government consider a 24-month grace period for both infant formula and follow-up formula. Finally, we would also like to ask the technical guidance to be released. Thank you.
Thank you. 下一位係美
Next, Mr. Bruno Chavot from Dano Nutrition, the Early Life Nutrition.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to share our views on behalf of Danone Nutrition Early Life Nutrition in Hong Kong. I will be short. Our company fully supports the government effort to regulate the composition and labeling of formula products and food intended for infants and young children under the age of 36 months here in Hong Kong. We believe that it's not only a very good way to protect public health, it's a good tool to promote a balanced diet, and it also helps to ensure parents have access to the proper information. And not only, it's also acknowledging how critical our products are to the public health. Our products play a critical role in shaping the health of the next generation, and it's very important to ensure that all products available on the market comply with international regulations. Danone Nutrition is regarded as a leader in children's health and nutrition, and we do believe in science and in the power of nutrition. We invest heavily in research and development in order to design products that meet infants and young children's specific needs in every market we operate. In this regard, once again, we welcome the amended regulation to ensure infant formula sold in Hong Kong meet the basic nutritional composition stipulated by international authorities, and parents are exposed to the correct information on the labeling of food products for infant and young children. As we all know, young children are not small adults. They do need specialized nutrition. For example, after 12 months a young children needs 7 times more iron per kg weight, or 4 times more calcium. And our growing up milk formula plays a very important role in the young children diet. We look forward to further collaborate with the government on the nutritional guideline for the growing up milk category especially. Last but not least, we encourage the government to release the guidance notes stating the testing method and the tolerance limit of nutrition values, and it is an important piece of information for manufacturers to ensure compliance in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children, Mr. Mack. Thank you. I'd like to apologize on behalf of Ms. Susan So, who cannot attend the meeting. I'm here to represent the Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children, and I'd like to speak on 3 points. Basically, we are caring for 1,500 children under 36 months every day. That is why we are very concerned about food for children. First, we like to pass the regulation as soon as possible to protect infant health. We support legislating on baby formula for infant under 36 months. We agree that the regulation this time around can fill the gap left behind by the nutrition labeling laws. Actually, in 2012, the Center for Food Safety has already researched into 63 infant food, and it has said that there is a need for legislation. Now there is already a delay of 2 years. We hope there will be no more delay. Number 2, we believe there should be more public education. Actually, the public do not know too much about nutrition balance. When they choose infant formula, they are not doing it by any criteria or objective standards. We believe the present amendment will help the public make wiser choices. And after the regulation is in place, there should be comprehensive public education, especially for new arrivals, grassroots, and the ethnic minorities, so that the information can reach them. We also hope that you can do one more thing, and that is to help the public know that breastfeeding is best for our children. When you promote the labeling law, you might forget about breastfeeding. And then we would also like to have the Hong Kong Code implemented as soon as possible. Well, the regulation does not refer to the code, but you also say that the control on claims may be complicated and difficult to tackle, and you are saying that would be done at a later stage. In monitoring alternative food for children, you actually should also always remember to promote breastfeeding. And therefore, you should not forget about the Hong Kong Code. We hope it will be implemented as soon as possible. Thank you. Next, Hong Kong Catholic Breastfeeding Association, Ms. Connie Chan. Many babies are born in Hong Kong every day. Every life is precious. But we are we find it very regrettable that you have not got any control on baby formula even as of now. We are a bunch of volunteers helping to promote breastfeeding. Actually, the most difficult thing is to tell the public that breastfeeding is so much better than baby formula. In other countries and places in the world, I have not seen so much advertising on baby formula, and in fact, exaggerated advertising is very bad for mothers. It was fortunate that I was in Australia when I was pregnant and I gave birth in Australia, and actually there are no samples distributed in hospitals, and most Australian mothers breastfeed their babies up to 2 years old when the babies are 2 years old. So it is very natural for me to also feed or have fed my baby for 2 years. My younger sister was wedded to a Sweden husband, and she says there is no advertising on baby formula in the media, and most mothers breastfeed their babies. It is only when the mother is not physically fit to breastfeed the babies that they will feed baby formula. In Hong Kong, I'm now a volunteer counselor, but it is so difficult to promote breastfeeding because of the brainwashing advertising on TV. Mothers have this wrong idea that baby formula is better than breastfeeding. And it's very difficult for mothers to insist on breastfeeding even if they start. Very often, the exaggerated claims made by the producers are taken as information. I don't think there should be such a mixing up of information. In a hospital, actually, a mother was found to be breastfeeding her baby very well, but then she said she would like to switch to baby formula because she thought that her own milk would not be as good as the baby formula. And I had to counsel her for so long before she would change back her mind. And then also, a mother did not know how to breastfeed, so she thought that she did not have enough food for her baby, and she switched to baby formula before she was told that that was not the case. So very often, there is too much exaggerated advertising and false representation. We must, therefore, do this gatekeeping job by controlling labeling on baby formula. We must not allow that to dampen people's determination on breastfeeding. We are just a bunch of Catholics. We are led by the Archbishop Zen and also our bishop, and also we work to help mothers because we love God, we love human beings, and therefore I believe we should not delay anymore, and we must help to protect life by promoting breastfeeding. In fact, that is also good for mothers. Next, Abbott Laboratory Limited, Mr. Andrew Wong.
I'm going to present a shorter version of our submission. Abbott Laboratories Limited greatly appreciates the opportunities provided over the past 2 years to participate in the discussion through various trade consultation forums and technical forums offered by the Center for Food Safety. Abbott would like to submit the following comments for consideration. Number one, on tolerance limits. In view of the Department's intention to introduce tolerance limits on label claims for many nutrients, Abbott proposed to align Hong Kong minimum tolerance limits with those already established within the region. Thus, Hong Kong proposed the following: minimum tolerance limit of 80% of declared label value of all macro and micronutrients, and no specifically defined maximum tolerance limits. On minimum tolerance limits, Abbott proposed to maintain a minimum tolerance limit as 80% of declared label value claim. Examples are China and Taiwan. The Australia and New Zealand and the EU legislations define declared label claims values as average values, though a specific tolerance limits below label claim have not been defined for this product category. On maximum tolerance limits, consistent with China regulation for nutrition labeling of prepackaged food for special dietary use, Abbott proposed to define only the minimum tolerance limit and not define specific maximum tolerance limits. The Australia and New Zealand and the EU legislations do not define specific maximum tolerance limits for this product category. On a FSMP, a formula for special medical purpose. Abbott supports the Department's intention to exempt FSMP formula from both Part 4 of Schedule 1 and Schedule 6A. The FSMPs Abbott imports into Hong Kong are niche products for specific patient populations and are formulated to meet very special medical determined needs under the supervision of the physician. The majority of these products are used in a hospital setting. Without the exemptions, these formulas would not be allowed to be sold in Hong Kong because their specialized formulations deviate from the composition requirement. On grace period, during the implementation of the existing nutrition labeling and labeling claims regulations, i.e. 1+7, in 2008, a 24-month grace period was granted for manufacturers. And that was only for product label changes. As the current amendments could affect formulation, manufacturing, label development, and testing requirement, Abbott proposed a minimum grace period of 24 months to assure time to comply, while also avoiding any supply disruption in the Hong Kong market for consumers and patients of these important formulas. Thank you.
Okay. 下一位香港有限。
Next is Ms. Alina Chan of Nestle Hong Kong Limited. Thank you, Chairman. Nestle Hong Kong Limited has the following view concerning the regulation of infant and follow-up formula food and prepackaged food for children under the age of 36 months. We welcome that, and we think it has suitably filled the gap concerning the about the food control of control of food for children below the age of 36 months. That makes the labeling law more complete. It can also provide clear information for consumers so that they can make an informed choice. We thank the Center for Food Safety for good communication with the trade in the early stage of drafting. It also enables us to understand the requirement of the law. We therefore support the content of the law. As for international standards, tolerance limits and grace period, we also support that. I will also raise one more point. Concerning the technical guidelines, we hope that the technical guidelines can be promulgated as early as possible, and the testing methods that are acceptable should also be listed. This will enable the trade to understand the details of the new provisions and standards, and this will also enable us to prepare for compliance with the law. And finally, we know that the administration also want to regulate the claims for food, for prepackaged food and formula for children under age 36 months. We hope there can be better communication. In fact, the majority of such foods are imported from overseas countries, and I hope that the administration will accept the research reports and nutritional claims of the country of production. Next is Friesland Campina Hong Kong Limited, Ms. Natalie Yun. Thank you, Chairman. We'd like to thank the committee for inviting us to attend this meeting. Friesland Campina Hong Kong Limited is a member of a member of a trade association, and we support the legislation for baby and infant formula for under the age of 36 months. We ask for a grace period of 24 months. It is in line with some of the suggestion of the Leche members. We think we need 24 months to comply. This will help to reduce the disruption and confusion caused, and that will only benefit the consumers. We need time to go through necessary procedures so that the products can comply with the new rules, and that includes reviewing our formula and change the formula if need be, and we need to test the stability of the new product. We need to repackage the product, and then we need to arrange for production and shipping, and also distribution, etc. Baby formula and follow-up formula require the same time to prepare, and therefore we want a grace period of 24 months, and we hope the administration will publish the guidelines as early as possible. 24 months is a period, is a grace period, is based on all known information. The present amendment is by negativing. The grace period has already started, but we have not received the technical guidelines. There are many important pieces of information and reference for us so that we can go through the above process which I mentioned. I hope the details can be published as soon as possible so that we can start work as early as possible. As for the implementation of the amendment regulation, it is based on the date when the product is put on the shelf. That will only cause confusion and even shortage in supply. I think the administration should refer to the international practice of setting the period according to the date of production. This will be more realistic and practicable. And finally, the administration should provide provide more details on testing methods so that our laboratories can make comparisons of test results, and we can also reflect to the Center for Food Safety the differences that may arise from different testing methods. We'll continue to cooperate with the administration so that the things can go smoothly. Next is Alliance for Children's Commission, Mrs. Leche. The alliance is formed by 20-odd member associations who care for the welfare of children, welfare and rights of children. We ask for the introduction of the Hong Kong Code, and there shouldn't be any promotion advertising for baby formula below the age 36 months. And the nutritional claims need time to legislate, and therefore, before there is any legislation, that part of the code should be preserved. As for the advertising for formula for follow-up children, there are problems of advertising. They make exorbitant claims, and some even put in teaching materials, and they also arrange publicity through television and various channels, and they even claim that children feeding growth formula will have higher IQ and will be better than others at the starting line. They claim there is a lot of claim of DHA. The benefits of DHA, but in fact that is not based on science. The increase in different nutrients may even increase the risk of children if they drink more milk of DHA, and then they also take other food. Then the DHA intake per day will already exceed the limits. They claim that taurine is good for brains, but that is only the tests are done on elderly and also adults, but it cannot be extended to children. They have a lot of advertisement and publicity, but there is no regulation, and parents just believe the claims. Some parents believe that their child are not as smart as other children because they have not given a certain brand of milk to their children, and even some poor parents have to put up a lot of money to buy baby formula so that they hope they can do away with cross-generation poverty. In fact, the WHO have guidelines, and there is no need to take baby formula. There is no need to take milk formula. All these is a result of exaggeration of advertisement. In fact, the WHO has already come to a conclusion to ban these advertising. We ask Hong Kong to adopt the same approach, and on a voluntary basis, there should be a penalizing arrangement to deal with breaches so that we can enhance food safety for young children and baby formula and people's right to correct information. I want to remind you that we are talking about the amendment bill. Amendment regulation, apart from speaking on the Hong Kong Code, please also speak on the amendment regulation. Next is Ms. Zhang Fuyu. Good morning. The nutritional claims of milk formula is not just limited to TV advertising. Some producers are in fact going to sending their representatives to kindergartens. They tell stories. They lead young children to sing, and they say that if they drink the milk they provide, then they will be smarter, they will be healthier. If they don't, then they will be weak, they will be stupid. And also private clinics also provide advertising for baby formula, and some doctors and nurses ask mothers to add to feed their children with infant formula. They provide free samples. They even ask mothers to switch from breast milk to formula milk or add formula milk to breast milk feeding. And some say that if they drink a certain formula, then children will be smarter. And also some formula producers are calling up their mothers that after 6 months they should provide, that they should buy baby formula for their children. They don't ask them to buy, they don't teach the mothers to feed solid food to their children. Instead, they just ask them to buy baby formula. I recently received a call from a mother that the mother received received information from producers that she should buy formula milk for her 2-year-old, and then the milk can be for the child up to 10 years old. They are super formulas, and they have better digestion. The children will be healthier and smarter. I have answered hotlines. I have lead groups on breastfeeding. And I know that because of the advertisement, many breastfeeding mothers feel that they don't have enough milk for their children, or their milk are not as nutritious as baby formula. In fact, there is also peer pressure from family members. Even if there is breastfeeding, then baby formula should be added. Now, we have regulation for adult food, but there is no such regulation for babies. To protect babies and mothers, the government should regulate the nutritional claims of milk formula for children below the age of 36 months, and there should be legislation to ban excessive advertising. Next is Ms. Corona Chan. Next is Ms. Cam Young Chi, Mama Milk Baby Alliance. Now, my daughter is 4-year-old. When she was 2, I brought her out. I went into and then she went into a shop selling baby formula, and then she hold a can of baby formula and said that she likes baby formula. But in fact, I have been breastfeeding her for all the years. So in fact, even small children are brainwashed into believing that they like baby formula. They really don't know what it is. When they see dancing, singing in the advertisement, they just have the misunderstanding that baby formula will make them happy, just like adults who seen a certain advertisement. When you see a small child playing a violin very well, then they may have such adults may have such a projection that by giving such a formula to their child and to their children will perform excellently. And some also claim that children will have better digestion if they have baby formula. That is all misleading. When we say that when children do not become very choosy in eating, then you see baby formula, that you see milk advertisement that is better to give them formula milk in order to deal with imbalanced nutrition. And that's really misinformation. Now, we've heard that we've seen many cases in which mothers are being influenced by advertising, milk formula advertising, and that they feel that they don't have enough milk for their babies, or they add baby formula to feed their babies. Now, we want to ask the members of the council and also the government to take the lead to correct all these misinformation and regulate baby milk formula for children below the age of 36 months, implement Hong Kong Code, regulate the advertising and marketing of milk formula, and introduce a regulation to regulate claims, nutritional claims, so that people will not be misled by exaggeration in advertisement. Next is Ms. Corona Chan of Breastfeeding Mama Station. We have 6,000 members. We don't need to rely on baby formula. Even if we are working mothers, we can also pump our milk and then give our milk to our helpers so that they can feed our children. Now, we encounter people who convince us into not breastfeeding our children. Some people just say, some relatives just say that you don't need to breastfeed your child. Breastfeeding is not nutritious. Baby formula is more nutritious.
And these people are really speaking because they have seen the advertisements. They have seen very well produced advertisements saying that baby formula will make children smarter. Actually, an old person in my home who is over 90 years old knows what is DHA. Now, of course, breastfeeding is good for babies, but we cannot label ourselves. We mothers cannot put labels on our bodies to say that we also provide a lot of nutrition to our babies. So I think breast milk, of course, has all the DHA and what have you. Remember tobacco advertising that we used to have? That had very bad influence on our young people. Now, baby formula is not, advertising is not affecting young people, but actually they have a lot of influence on young children. In fact, babies are all unique. They do not need baby formula to boost their height, their weight, etc. I think that is quite misleading. And in fact, children now would themselves prefer baby formula. And I also find it strange. Why is it that it is up to the producers to label their products? Why are they given the freedom to label their products? Why are they teaching our old people that young children need DHA from baby formula? I myself am in child education, and some young people, young children rely on baby formula even if when they are 4 years old, they might only drink milk throughout the day because they think that nutrition will only come from baby formula. I like to tell you that nutrition doesn't come out of a can. Some mothers actually use baby formula as tonic food for their children before their children attend P1 interview. So are we asking our children to embrace these cans before they can grow up healthily? Thank you. Next, Ms. Ho Wing Pui. Ms. Joey Ang, actually. I have worked in an advertising company, and I had some baby formula clients. Now I breastfeed my babies. As you can see from the advertisements, they use different perspectives and also visual effects and slogans, and also other concessions and promotional techniques. And so you can see that the baby formula sellers are very successful. Parents should be able to have information apart from just the image of the products. Some of the claims have not been verified, and some of the wording can at best just be slogans. Well, originally it was good to have baby formula produced, but then the situation has become quite worrying. Now we seem to have forgotten about breast milk, and it seems baby formula is what we are left with for our babies. As I said, I worked in an advertising company, and I was very aware of the impact of advertisements on buyers. In fact, this is what is happening to parents already. They choose the baby formula that they themselves like. And also some family members of breastfeeding mothers are also influenced that way. And in fact, baby formula is chosen under such a situation, and it is fed to babies up to 3-4 years old. In fact, this may just be water mixed with powder. No matter how advanced you are in technology, no matter how careful you are with the production, it is very ironic that we adults are talking about non-additives and also organic food and nutrition balance, etc. But what are we doing for our babies? I think producers also have their social responsibility, and they should not exaggerate the benefits of their products in their advertisements. I am from Passion Babies, Zhang Yousam. Some people say mothers who work cannot take their babies to their workplace, and so breast milk should only become a supplement to baby formula. They say baby formula can help mothers, but I have been forced to give up my full-time work. I am a grassroots mother. I was trying to pump milk in my company, and I was discriminated against, so I had to give up my job. And this is what is happening to a lot of grassroots mothers, because there is this general atmosphere of baby formula feeding, and that is why breastfeeding mothers are not welcome at the workplace. This kind of social atmosphere will affect mothers and also people around the mothers. And every time in our family gathering, I would be asked when I would stop breastfeeding my baby and switch to baby formula. I think this is such a misguided concept. We talk about free flow of information, but then what is our policy for feeding our babies? According to the Department of Health, 78.4% of parents are of the view that follow-up formula is better than breast milk, and 53% of parents were of the view that nutrition in baby formula would promote the growth of the brain, and such nutrition cannot be found in any other food. This is exactly what rampant baby formula advertisement is doing to our society. An advertisement would say they have their own farm, that a lot of the nutrition has come from milk, and also they have gone through a lot of processes so that anything that is not good for human babies would be extracted, and nutrition will be added, etc. But then what is left in the baby formula may not include a lot of the original nutrition from milk. And in fact, when we go to a market to shop, we will not look for DHA in this food and AA in another food. I think for follow-up formula, I believe we should supplement it with solid food. Therefore, we must control advertisement for follow-up formula. Thank you very much. Next, Hong Kong Committee for UNICEF, Ms. Joyce Chan. Thank you, Chairman. In 190 countries all over the world, UNICEF is doing a lot to advocate breastfeeding. And in the middle of this month, UNICEF 2 experts to Hong Kong, and after their in-depth research, UNICEF supports the implementation of the Hong Kong Code. We'd like to make the 3 recommendations. Number 1, we must promote voluntary compliance with the code. And 2, since we have already got new law for nutrition labeling, we believe this can be taken out from the Hong Kong Code. But then health claim and nutrition claims must be preserved until we have new laws. We have had waited very long for the Hong Kong Code, and there is a lot of misunderstanding in society. Many people are not aware that the advertisements are influencing them, and also they have forgotten about the benefits of breastfeeding. Actually, WHO and also UNICEF and also the United Nations place breastfeeding in a high position. We hope that all babies in the whole wide world can be breastfed for 6 months, and also then we can prevent 1 million baby deaths in 1 year all over the world. The UN has got these 8 Millennium Development Goals, and in terms of poverty alleviation and also people's health, they have said that breastfeeding has a main role to play. I am also a breastfeeding mother, but in fact, whenever you get pregnant, and there will be people around you telling you that which baby formula is good, which baby formula will make babies healthy. Now, this is how advertisements are influencing us without our knowing it. we have to show the determination to get on with breastfeeding. If we can have this regulation and also the Hong Kong Code, I believe that will be a shot in the arm for Hong Kong mothers, and that will send a message to all Hong Kong people that breastfeeding is good for our people. It is also good for social development. We must help and all chip in to promote it as the mainstream culture. Many people are working with us. Last Friday, the director of the Hong Kong Medical School at Hong Kong U, Dr. Gabriel Leung, we have been promoting a signature campaign, and now we have got about 4,000 signatures. We hope the administration and members will remember the health of our younger generation and promote breastfeeding measures so we can have the regulation and the Hong Kong Code implemented. But we must say again that nutrition claims and health claims must be preserved in the Hong Kong Code. Thank you. Mr. Ho Hing Chong. Thank you. Good morning. I represent fathers. My wife breastfeeds my child. I'd just like to say a few words. First, I support the making of the Hong Kong Code. I am a high-ranking person in a multinational company, but in our company, we do not have the resources to support breastfeeding. That may be our value, all right, but there is no resource to do it. When my child was growing up, I asked my wife to give up her job so she could concentrate on nursing the baby. I think that would be the best thing to do. I was willing to sacrifice part of the income for the family in order to exchange for the long-term health of my baby. As you know, fathers are very busy, but we are under pressure from our own parents. They have seen all the advertisements, and of course they are not aware of the whole picture. And they would be putting pressure on their daughter-in-law who is breastfeeding. Originally, there should be a choice to go for breastfeeding, but very often, because of pressure from the old members in the family, there could not be the making of a wise choice, and mothers are made to suffer from such pressure. If there is a code, and if there will be proper labeling on infant formula, then we hope a more balanced and positive message would be sent into families. And in fact, I can say I am speaking on behalf of a lot of fathers in this regard. And may I also mention that if we don't work for the health of our children, well, I can see that grandparents would be asking why their grandchildren are so thin, and we parents have no answer. They would like to see babies chubby and healthy, but then we parents are in a difficult position. So I hope the government can help to promote conscientious business. We are taxpayers. We like to do our part to protect the health of our children. And I'm not saying that our children should be too fat so that they would be overweight and suffer from diabetes. That is not what I'm trying to say. Okay, that's all for deputations. Can I ask the Undersecretary for Food and Health to respond? Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank the deputations and individuals for coming to let us have your views on the present amendment regulation. I understand the trade and mothers and then other organizations have different views, and I thank you for expressing those views. But overall speaking, I can hear that you are more or less agreeable on the amendment regulation. which is on nutrition labeling and nutrients labeling. And I have also heard a lot of voices saying that the health claims and nutrition claims should be regulated.
Concerning claims, the Center for Health Safety is working hard on it. It is now studying the approaches of different countries. At the end of this year, there will be a consultation, and we invite the public to give their views on our approach in controlling nutrition and health claims. We will list the approaches of different countries. So please be assured that we are working on it. As for this amendment regulation, the CFS has had many technical meetings with the trade, and there are several main ideas in the discussion concerning the grace period. The trade has some concerns. In fact, at the previous meeting, there was such a view was also expressed. At the start, it was 12 months. Upon the demand of the trade, with regard to infant formula, we allowed 18 months, and follow-up formula 24 months. Now, we've heard that you want to standardize that period. If we do, then the only option is 18 months. The CFS has gone through a long and careful study. 18 months for baby formula or for infant formula is a must. Labeling and composition should comply within 18 months. Now, they also ask for technical guidelines from the CFS as soon as possible, and also testing methods. At previous technical meetings, the CFS discussed with the trade on various methods and also on codex. Dr. Ho will speak on this later. As for the views of the mothers and organizations for breastfeeding, I heard that they support the present legislative proposal. They also have a demand for regulation of claims, and they have also given us some views on exaggerations of the advertisements. We've also heard strong views calling for the implementation of the Hong Kong Code. Members may be aware that yesterday at the meeting of the panel on health, we've already informed the panel on the consultation on the code and also on our way forward. We've already started the legislative process for composition and labeling, and we hope that some time can be given to us so that we can organize the content. Now, some ask us to take away the part that has been legislated and then keep the part on nutrition claims and health claims. I think we hope we can be given more time, but we will certainly implement the code. some groups have given us a lot of views, and we've heard the views of mothers on breastfeeding. And in our community, there are certain inadequacies which are not conducive to breastfeeding. Let me respond by saying that we have set up a committee on promoting breastfeeding within the Food and Health Bureau. And the committee is made up of members from different sectors of the community. We will step up education. We'll provide support for breastfeeding through the clinics and through hospitals. And we will also implement the code. The committee has already done a lot of work. We hope that in the workplace, more facilities can be provided. The government will take the lead as a good employer, provide facilities to encourage breastfeeding. We hope that the departments and bureaus will allow the employees to have time to pump milk, and also the bureaus and departments will provide facilities to assist that. And we've also heard that there are calls for enhancing public education. The Department of Health has done a lot of public education, but mothers and also milk producers or formula producers have made their views on nutrition. I think we should provide correct information apart from having having correct labels. Mothers should also be educated that what kind of food should be given to their babies and young children at different stages. Perhaps after the meeting you can give us a written reply to all the views given today. And I open the floor to members. Those who want to ask questions, please raise their hands. Each member will be given 4 minutes, questions and answers together. Ms. Elena Wong and then Ms. Ellen Leung. I thank the deputations coming and for sharing their views. And now the milk formula issue is broken up into 3 parts. We are now talking about labeling 1+33 or 1+29. But many have spoken on the code, and the code is about control on formula advertising for formula milk, and that is looked after by another panel. I just want to know whether the secretary is going to implement, the administration is going to implement the code or not. You asked us to give us some. You asked us to give you some time. What is the position of your bureau? And also concerning the claims of the advertisements, many raised questions on that. Some are exaggerating, some are misleading. And the code and this regulation do not deal with these excessive claims. Did you have a timetable to deal with that? We have broken up that in different parts, and you make the representation difficult because they are concerned about a holistic matter. So can you explain to us what's your timetable in dealing with these 3 bits? I have not heard a single person present today who oppose nutrition labeling and composition labeling for milk formula. They do. They did raise some questions. Now the definition, or rather 18 months for baby formula, and then 24 months for follow formula. Now, they want they want a uniform grace period. According to the Secretary, if it is a uniform grace period, 18 months. I want to hear from the trade whether they are not able to cope if the grace period is 18 months for all, and you will not be able to replace the products in the market within 18 months. The next question is on the technical guidelines. Now, the regulation doesn't have the technical guidelines. Even in the government's paper, there is no mention of the details. But last time, I raised the issue on tolerance limits. One or two deputations spoke on that. How you're going to set the tolerance limits, maximum limit, minimum limits, and the difference between the test result and the label. And also, you have not published your technical guidelines. So, shouldn't you therefore include the technical guidelines in the regulation? Or you have to get the guidelines ready before you complete the legislation process? Ms. Wong, we have some time to discuss the matter with the administration concerning the implementation of the law. But concerning the grace period, does anyone want to respond to that? Mr. Xiu. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning formula milk, in fact, the shelf life is about 2 to 3 years. For small suppliers, the turnover is small. It will be difficult for them to sell their stock within 18 months. For large sellers, they may have a quicker turnover period, but not for the small ones. In the past, usually the grace period is 24 months. This time for baby formula, it was just 18 months. It is just 18 months. It makes life difficult for the small sellers. And we don't have the guidelines. What can we do? The producer has to come up with a formula. It has to be tested. And how much time do we have? And if the producer cannot comply within that grace period, then there will be a shortage of supply in Hong Kong. Ms. Ellen Leung, and then Sid Ho. On behalf of the Civic Party, I have to thank you all for coming and explaining to us your view. I want to tell you that the Civic Party fully supports the amendment regulation. Many have spoken on the technical guidelines and testing methods in the sense that they have not been announced. Mr. Wong from Abbott's is more specific. He mentioned the nutrients and he refers to averages. I hope that when there is the technical guideline or the testing, that the view can be reflected. It's not just as what it is claimed. There can be a range allowed. I don't know when the administration will answer this question. Do you accept a range? And do mothers, breastfeeding mothers, accept, or do the mothers accept a range? Say if it's put on the list. Say If it is an average, then you should put a range. As long as you don't fall outside the range, is still acceptable. How do mothers look at it? How do consumers look at this? If it's a range.
So, talking about the grace period, I have heard from the businessmen that since this regulation is subject to negative vetting and it was gazetted on the 13th of last month and the 24 months period has kicked in, so I'd like to listen to the trade representatives. What are the difficulties? Is it that you cannot even have 1 month less? Two questions on the tolerance limit and the technical guidelines. Can I defer to Dr. Ho, please, from the CFS? Yes, about the technical guidelines. Yes. In the past 2 years, we have had a few trade forums with the trade on the technical side of the regulation. And also, we have also had one exchange with the trade on the contents of the technical guidelines. Just now, the trade has already said that they have got a lot of information. We have already got a draft technical guideline. In the coming 2 months, we are going to have more communication with the trade. The formal guideline can be implemented only when the regulation or the law is formally promulgated. So we have to wait for the completion of the scrutiny of the regulation first. Can I listen to the trade as well on the grace period of 24 months? The 24-month period has already started. So let's see whether some deputations or individuals would like to speak up. Could we have other people? Mr. Zhong? Yes, our association is of the view that we need to know the exact requirements. Then we can talk to the manufacturers and take a look at the formula to see whether there is a need for improving it or adjusting it. And then we need to do testing, and then we can do the production, and then we can manufacture the packaging material, etc. And every process needs time. If on the 13th of last month, we have already started the period, and if we have to wait for many more months before we can have the guideline, then the schedule is quite tight. We'd like to have the guideline as soon as possible so that we can talk to our headquarters about the production of the formula. Chairman, just now, Dr. Ho has said that he has been in contact with you, that you should know what is expected of you, and within 3 months maybe you can get your job done. But then at the 24th month is going to be a legal requirement. Well, yes, exactly. We have to be sure that this is a final and certain situation. So the answer I'm getting is that it is all right. Next one, Ms. Sit Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank the deputations and individuals for coming. I'm happy to see so many of you, especially the mothers and fathers who have done so much to protect the health of the next generation. Actually, breastfeeding is not easy for mothers who are having their babies for the first time. There may not be a lot of support from their families, or even in hospitals. No one may be teaching you how to breastfeed, and it will be so difficult for you to make a start. I also like to point out that in breast milk, there is a lot of antibodies, and which cannot be found in baby formula. So mothers have to spend a lot of effort and time in nursing the babies, and in fact, it is a huge contribution to the families. In 2010, there was an audit report, and now you are responding to it by meeting the minimum requirements of that report, and we believe this is not enough. Just now, a speaker asked Why we cannot do the same as for tobacco advertising? In other words, to have some warning printed on the labels. Of course, baby formula is not going to be harmful to health, but I like to ask the trade who is represented here. Can you discharge more social responsibility? And that is in your label, you mention that baby formula is just a substitute, and the best food for babies will be breast milk. I think that is your corporate social responsibility. Some families may not be able to do breastfeeding because of health problems of the mother, and they will have to buy baby formula. But then as the trade, you should show some commitment to society by discharging your corporate social responsibility. And in fact, baby formula has always been meant to be a substitute, not a replacement. So I'm asking the trade here, before the law is in place, will you be happy to print this very simple statement on your label to discharge your social responsibility that breast milk is by far the best baby milk? Ms. C, our company and also our association are already printing this statement on our baby formula. We have said that breast milk is best, and mothers should think twice before switching to formula milk. Actually, in our company, we have a nursing room for breastfeeding mothers. Ms. Choi, we'd like to point out that actually the baby formula is a replacement, because if the babies take baby formula, they are not going to be able to be breastfed. So it is not a complementary kind of situation. And in overseas countries, the trade would also say they support breastfeeding, but then on the other hand, they are doing a lot to promote their products. So this is a zero-sum game. If the babies are fed baby formula, they cannot be fed breast milk at the same time. What about the other trade representatives present? Any company representatives? Is it that you have to wait for the law before you are happy to print that statement? Ms. Yun? Thank you, Ms. Ho and Chairman. Just like Ms. C, our company has already printed the statement to say breast milk is best. And on our website, we have also included that statement for web browsers and our members. We also have a nursing room in our company for our staff who need to breastfeed their babies. I'd like to ask a question. There are 2 points in this amendment regulation which have caused concern. Number one, grace period. Many members have asked this question. Is the trade of the view that you find it difficult but not impossible, right? You think there may be a supply problem. Is that right? I'd also like to clarify what Dr. Ho said just now. Can you give us a clearer timetable? When can you show the technical guideline to the trade? When we are looking at the regulation, whether 18 months or 24 months will be enough. In fact, the trade is saying that you give them the information late. They are saying that you are not giving them to see the guidelines soon enough. So do you have a clearer timetable? Thank you, Chairman. As I said, the draft guideline will be shown to the trade in the next 2 months. We will be having an exchange with them. As to the formal version, according to our experience, we can issue that within 3 months after the law is in place. Well, Dr. Ho, to be fair, if we are talking about 18 months, 24 months, if we want to make it easier for the trade to comply, you have to convince them that they would have enough time to do it, or else members might want to move an amendment. So You say you would have an exchange with them in the next 2 months, and then you say you can show them the final version after or 3 months after the law is passed. But you're already starting the clock ticking in June. Even if we carry the regulation and then you need a few more months, that means you are eating into the grace period, or else the trade cannot comply with the guideline. My question is now for the trade. The administration is saying that for babies, we should have stricter control of the baby formula, and that is why they say only 18 months. Some members may support that, you know. Is it that it is just difficult for you? Because I believe if you are really as responsible as you claim to be, then the nutrients and also the labels should not be too much of a problem, right? If you say the old stock cannot comply with the new regulation and you need to sell it out, then we would be quite worried. I would prefer that you do not sell the old products anymore if they cannot comply with the upcoming legislation. Can the trade answer the question about the grace period? Ms. Chan, let me put it this way. If the technical guideline is there and we can comply with 18 months, but sometimes it's the testing method. We are not saying that the product is problematic, but the nutrients are there and then we need to wait for the test results. And the test results must comply with the tolerance limits of the administration, or else we need to adjust the labels. As you know, the product may be complying with international standards, but then the labeling way may not be totally compatible with the guideline to be released. But then your product is already following the Codex standards, and the composition and the labels are already complying with the Codex requirements. So even if the technical guideline will be available later, it should not be too far away from Codex. Dr. Ho has said that he is communicating with you, and if everybody is working according to Codex requirements, then is it so difficult for you to comply? Well, if the administration will show us the final guidelines, then we can start to do our part.
Yeah, I would like to make a couple of points. It's first of all, we are not discussing any safety issue and any deviation versus international standards. It's all about compliance on what is on the label, how do we declare the value and the nutritional value on the labels. That's purely a compliance issue. You could easily understand if we follow an average and we declare the average on the label, and if we go for something which is different from the regulation standpoint, then we just need to adjust the label. So here I'd like to reassure everybody, including the mother who are consuming our products, there is no safety issue, there is no nutritional issue with the product today available on the market, but we are just heading towards a compliance issue if we don't clarify it quickly. And that's the only thing we need on the very short term in order to talk about grace period. We need some clarity on how we would declare the nutritional value on the label.
Okay. So, Dr.
I would just like to add in support of that, it's all about the compliance, but we are talking about that our products need to be compliant over the shelf life of the product, 2 years. If one of our products ends up in somebody's house on the shelf, and is there for the 2-year period, we need to guarantee that at the 2-year end is still compliant with what it is in the label. If there is a need for us to readjust, it needs for us to do a lot of testing that will not allow us to do it and guarantee that unless we have adequate time to make the change.
Okay. 第二輪係何秀。
Second round, Ms. Sitho, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I have heard many deputations say that the advertising is really all over the place, and the older generation in the families have been brainwashed, and that brings pressure to be borne on the mothers of newborns. Now the regulation only seeks to impose the minimum control and monitoring, so I don't think anybody will oppose. But as to how we can control advertising, which is going into families. What can we do? I'd like to ask the administration on the political reform. You are always spotting these APIs on TV. I have seen 10, 20 times of these, but you are not doing anything to promote breastfeeding. Officials, you can have your own time in giving a reply. So I'd like to know whether you would make use of more API time to promote breastfeeding. Can I also ask the deputations to comment on the control of advertisements?
Say, distributing cartoons in the kindergartens and also API advertisement, television advertising. Say, you drink milk formula, you can play violin. Now, we ask for the implementation of Hong Kong Code. Hong Kong Code covers labeling and other things. There are different provisions to regulate the advertising. The WHO is of the view that such advertising is not appropriate, and there are a lot of guidelines which show what are malpractices in terms of advertising. I've heard that if you don't advertise, people don't get the information. But we want mothers to make an informed choice. They are not to make a choice under misinformation. Now, under the code, even if mothers want to feed their babies with formula milk, they can still obtain information. And the producers have the duty to provide information of their products to the consumers. So there's no problem with that. It's not about how to change advertising, but it's about not allowing such kind of advertising. Well, the administration has to do a lot of things. There are many APIs apart from political reforms. APIs on outbound traveling or other APIs. Now, in 2013, the marketing on baby formula is $2.7 billion, was $2.7 billion. And $2.7 billion was more than the budget of the whole medical school. Do they have to close the medical school in order to get the money to compete with the baby formula producers? In 1981, the WHO has already seen this imbalance and therefore proposed to regulate the sale, the advertising of baby formula. Now, basically, they have a sentence saying that breast milk is the best. That's the requirement of the WHO. But if you look at the health claims are very big, and you can see the signs across the street. But for the sentence, breast milk is the best, you need a magnifier in order to read it. And there are also the things about packaging, colors, so on and so forth. Supporting breastfeeding is one thing, as said by Ms. Chen. That is a zero-sum game, really. Yes, Madam Chairman, we still have a lot of time, and there are not too many members here, and I've seen some hands at the back. So would you allow them to speak? Now, the Bureau, you will still have some time to talk to us. If you may accommodate a bit. I have seen Ms. Chan. Now, if you look at the website, you look at the tins of the milk formula. It says that the breast, they have DHA, AA, and other formula. I really don't know. Where do elderly people see breast milk is the best, or can they put down another sentence? Baby formula doesn't have antibodies. I teach in kindergarten. They have health education seminars or talks, but they are conducted by baby formula suppliers. Say in the food pyramid, pyramid given to children, they have baby formula included. And then you have A for apple and then B for a certain baby formula. I asked the headmaster of the kindergarten, I asked the headmaster of another kindergarten. In fact, they said that the administration has faxed information to all headmasters of the kindergartens. But these are reminders, not that they shouldn't help to promote kindergarten. They should not help to promote baby formula in kindergartens. But we are told by parents that their children keep bringing back such materials from the kindergartens, which are promoting the baby formula. Ms. Chang and then Ms. Ang. Now, some have told me that in the kindergarten of their daughter, the kindergarten deals with the samples. Say if you win a quiz, then you will be given a tin of baby formula. Now the child comes back from the kindergarten and brings back a tin of baby formula. She wins a quiz, and the girl is very happy. But the girl has never consumed a drop of baby formula. She has, and in fact, there's not a single tin of baby formula at home. Now, whether you have labeling or not, whether you have the claim or not, you cannot prevent this brainwashing type of advertising. We need to implement the Hong Kong Code as soon as possible. Ms. Ang. Oh, Ms. Cameron, my apologies. Now, the formula producers have done a lot of work. It's not just TV advertising. They have adopted a very pervasive strategy. They organize mothers' clubs. They organize free activities. They give out teaching materials. They work through the clinics. We come here to speak on the Hong Kong Code. We know that today's meeting is not on the Hong Kong Code, but we want to tell you that advertising by the baby formula producers is very pervasive. They have invaded every part of our life, and we therefore need to speak up. Whether it is the Hong Kong Breastfeeding Mothers Association, which has a long history, and also other newer organizations for breastfeeding. The government has not done enough, or the government has done very little. They just allow the baby formula producers to adopt such kind of invasive education. We need to turn the table. We need to turn it around. Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong. I want to turn the conversation back to the labeling law, if you don't mind. I want to speak on grace period, tolerance limits, and formulation. The three are related, and let me speak on this together. Now we follow the codex. You say that's okay. 18 months is okay. It's exactly this point. The administration has not provided the fine details, such as the tolerance limit. Say, our formulation is in line with the codex. If we just follow this paper to legislate, that's okay with us. 18 months may be okay. But when they introduce tolerance limits, and they change the tolerance limits, then the formula is not just codex only. Codex doesn't have a tolerance limit. When you add a tolerance limit, then it's no longer codex. We will have to reformulate it, and then it takes time. After reformulation, then you have to do stability study. The formula is put on the shelf. It has been there for 1, 2, or 3 years, and it still have the tolerance limit. And that's very demanding. Now, on page 5, we have provided a timeline. We need a long time to do that. Reformulation takes time. Testing takes time. And then I don't count transportation, just the two together, more than 2 years. From our point of view, tolerance limit is a key factor, very key factor. With tolerance limit is no longer codex. It's okay. We will comply because this is law. But you need to give us time. Thank you. Well, I want the administration to respond on this point. That's very important. Okay. Chairman, my question, well, I didn't ask Mr. Wong. To be fair, Ms. Ho, several representatives will be given time to speak. I think a question has been asked and a question has been answered. If the trade wants to speak, they can raise their hand. Well, they have raised their hand, and therefore I ask Mr. Wong. There are 2 members. Well, if I and Ms. Wong walk out, then that's the end of the meeting. That's okay. That's still okay. I'm asking the deputations, or you ask me to wait for the 3rd round. I ask the 3rd round. I will ask for the 3rd round. Ms. Ho, I didn't say I didn't allow the deputations to speak. Mr. Wong just raised his hand, so I gave the floor to him, and I still see Ms. Ang and Ms. Zhang and Ms. Chen want to speak, and also Ms. Choi. She asked for the 2nd round. So I give other to speak first. Please be assured that I will give them time. I'm equally concerned. Mr. Wong's question, this point is also in relation to the regulation. Even if we don't discuss his question now, we still have the time to discuss this. So you let us ask our questions. Okay, let me chair the meeting. I ask the Policy Secretary to respond briefly. I don't want that grace period to affect our discussion. You really need to convince the trade. After the administration has responded, then I ask Ms. Ng to speak. Thank you, Chairman. I've heard the views of the trade time and again, and they're just repeating the same point. And I've also noted that the technical guideline is very important, though. The CFS said that there was discussion on this, and I know the trade wants to have a definite set of guidelines as soon as possible. As explained by the CFS, the guidelines can only be promulgated after the law has been passed. But I do believe that there is a draft on the part of the CFS, and the draft had been discussed before. And we will talk to the trade as soon as possible. And within the draft, as far as the draft is concerned, they are in line with the international testing methods, and also the codex. We will deal with the codex matter as soon as possible, such as we will deal with the tolerance limit as soon as possible, and then I hope that will help to bring relief to the situation. Yes, I really hope that you can speed up the process so that the law can be passed soon. Ms. Ng. Yes, I know that you are discussing the provisions, but we want to speak on another aspect of the matter. Now, you mentioned the rules, 18 months, 24 months. In fact, they are just trying to delay the process. Now, we can see all these pervasive advertisement, television advertising, promotional events, the bags used by mothers, tissue boxes, anything related or unrelated. You can see large logos, DHAs, signs, things like that. These are your products, and you have these logos, but you don't need them to be so big. You don't need to be so big so big logos. You don't need to have so many slogans to promote your products. The temperature card or the immunization cards in private clinics have these logos and slogans. You should gradually withdraw your resources on all these promotions.
I can see Ms. Zhang, and then Ms. Chan, Mr. Ho, and also Ms. Chen Yi Ting in the line. Any more? Yes, Ms. Wong Tin Wai. Anyone else? I will allow Ms. Choi to speak first. This is the second round. I will ask those who have not spoken in the first round to speak again. So Ms. Choi and then Mr. Chung. If that's all, I will draw a line there, because afterwards we will still have a second session to this meeting, and that is we'll meet the administration on the regulation itself. Okay, and Ms. Zhang. Just now, the trade representatives commented on the grace period of 18 or 24 months. I would actually agree with you, Ms. Chairman. If the formula is already in compliance with international standards and codex, do they really need such a long adjustment period? They have said that they need time to do testing. I used to work in a testing lab, and tests don't need a lot of time to be conducted. If the product itself is already quite close to international standards, then why they are so concerned with whether it's 18 months or 24 months? I believe to a certain extent they are just trying to delay matters. Just now, Ms. Sit Ho asked why the Hong Kong Code will be mentioned in one breath with the labeling regulation. This is because very often in advertisements they use claims. You know, actually the formulas are quite similar, but then A will say it will be good for the eyes, B will say it will be good for the brain, and C will say it's good for the intestines. Of course, all parents would like the children to be smart and healthy. When we see such claims, we will be easily misguided to think that one particular brand will make my child smarter. Even my family members who are aged are telling me the same. They would be receiving information from different channels, but still they are misled by such advertisements. That is why we want to mention the two together, because we don't want to see such claims in our advertisements. I don't think such claims should appear on packaging material either. In fact, mothers are doing the comparison as ourselves. Even if one product claims there is an extra addition of DHA, we could see that actually the amount of DHA is more or less the same. Ms. Chan, the first point on grace period, in 2013, the trade spent $2.7 billion on advertisements. So you know how much profit they are making. But no profit will be more important than health for our babies. So in our view, we should not even have a grace period of 18 months. The trade should have got prepared. The 18 months is really just for you to delay matters. Just now, Ms. Sito asked about commercials. There should be no commercials at all. Let us not just allow them to modify the commercials. They also organize different competitions, like crawling competitions for babies. We don't think they should be allowed to do anything like that. We should not have any nutrition publicity on food for children under 36 months old. Mr. Ho Hing Chang. Mr. Ho? Yes. 2 points. My company, MNC, is involved in regional lawmaking Now, I don't know too much about this trade, but if the WHO has already promulgated guidelines a few years ago, and if you in multi-internationals have not done anything, then I would say that you are just dragging your feet. Say, I work for the entire region in my company. I am in the chemical industry. I have my team working for me, of course, but if you are not quick to respond to new regulations, well, I'm not allowing that to happen in my company. You have to keep abreast of the new regulatory regimes. If you don't, it doesn't make sense to me. Secondly, before my boy was born, I took my wife to a gynecologist, and that gynecologist actually told my wife that breast milk is no good. Now, this gyno works in Admiralty, very close to this place. My wife and I were trying to find out about breastfeeding, but in fact, that was what a gyno told us. I don't know how that doctor got qualified. I would not name the gynecologist, but I was so angered. Number 3, as the mothers have said, things are happening in schools. There are so many toys that I can see they fill up the recycle boxes under my building. And these toys are from the baby formula producers. And people are throwing these toys out because there are too many of them. So it's not just advertising, it's also the giveaways and the promotional items. Ms. Chen Yiting, next one. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to respond to Ms. Ho's question. We mothers would like to say that we want to see some control of the advertising. In 1981, the WHO drew up the international code, and afterwards there were resolutions. It is said that national governments and territorial governments should do more to regulate the business conduct of baby formula producers, including advertising. If we were to legislate on advertising, I'm sure we would need more time than that for the present regulation because it's more controversial. So we believe that we should do something quick, and that is to implement the Hong Kong Code. It is going to be for voluntary compliance, but if the trade says that they are corporates with social responsibility, I'm sure they will voluntarily comply with the clauses of the code. And if they flout the code, I'm sure we can see that kind of compliance clearly or non-compliance clearly, and then we can speak about more regulations. And at the same time, the administration can do a review or some research into regulatory control, and the code will be the litmus paper for us to test what kind of regulatory control will eventually be required. Well, I am speaking in my capacity as a mother. My 2 children are 5 years and 8 years old. They have been breastfed. They have gone to kindergarten, and one is in primary 2. In kindergarten, there was distribution of the baby formula, toys. There were writing and also photography competitions. My children went to 2 kindergartens, and actually these things happened in both kindergartens. Just now, the Undersecretary said that you have a committee on promotion of breastfeeding. Well, my child loves to read storybooks, but then I could not find any storybook in Hong Kong talking about breastfeeding babies. I also read a lot of books myself. I can see that mentioned in Taiwan storybooks and in the even in textbooks for young primary school children. Taiwanese textbooks would mention breastfeeding. So, Undersecretary, I hope there will be resources for that committee in order to help mention breast milk, whether you write about it or show a picture about that, so that it becomes something very natural and common. Ms. Choi Ying, and the last one is Mr. Chung Chi-wai. Yes, I'd like to answer Ms. Ho's question, and that is how we can control or regulate baby formula. Many mothers have mentioned the situation in kindergartens, and when the WHO drew up the code for baby formula in 1981, there was also a declaration afterwards. It was a more specific blueprint for governments that they should do 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to promote breastfeeding, one of which is to set up a high-level cross-departmental working group in order to support breastfeeding. Let us look at what is happening in kindergartens. We have received a lot of complaints from parents, and we are talking to the Department of Health, and then it has to liaise with the Education Bureau, and then the Bureau will issue a reminder. The DOH colleagues are very enthusiastic. We have been cooperating with them. We can see that they are doing their best to promote breastfeeding, but then they cannot do it across the policy bureaus. Just like the Committee on Promotion of Breast Milk, it is within the Food and Health Bureau. But if mothers would like to have a longer maternity leave, and also if we talk about food safety, those are looked after by other departments and bureaus. So if you ask how we can really promote breastfeeding, I think we need to do 3 things. Number 1, we need to implement the Hong Kong Code because it covers a bigger area, including advertisements. Number 2, you have to upgrade the promotion effort. It is not just a health issue, but the entire government should do it together. Number 3, this is a very practical point, and that is money. You talk about the promotion of breast milk through APIs. Yes, there are such APIs, but then they are so short and people can easily miss them. I think that committee that has been set up represents a big step forward, but apart from giving this oral support, we hope more resources can be plowed in by the government. Last speaker, Mr. Chung. I'd like to reiterate that our association supports the regulation on nutrition label and nutrient composition. We make use of the Codex standard ourselves. But let me just reiterate yet again that Codex does not talk about tolerance limits. And we may have to use different testing methods to comply with the tolerance limit regulation. As for the Hong Kong Code, I understand this is not the topic for today. I'd just like to repeat that in our association, we support regulating that kind of claim. Many speakers have said that we spend a lot of money on advertising, but let us also note the geometric increase in new brands in the last few years, and that might have contributed to the advertising dollar. And then on information, different people have said that on the website and also on the cans, we can include more comprehensive information. But when users meet up with problems, if they dial the hotline, we cannot really talk to them on the hotline. That is not enough protection for users. And I'm not just talking about commercials, but the dissemination of information. We hope there could be a balance. It is not that we should not be allowed to do anything, but rather there should be appropriate monitoring and a guideline so all parties know what can be done. Ms. Sito would like to speak for a 3rd time. Chairman, thank you for giving the time to deputations to speak. Afterwards, we will take up the tolerance limit with the administration.
Codex doesn't provide for tolerance limit. Now, if there is the source, this is the source of confusion, then what do you think about a percentage of tolerance? Giving a tolerance limit is a flexibility. It gives you room to maneuver. But you think that room is not satisfactory, then let us do away with it. Who would like to respond to that? Just now, Mr. Wong mentioned tolerance limit and then the need for reformulating. So can we do away with it? If you take away tolerance limit, that means you follow codex. Then it makes things very simple. So better do away with it then. Okay, better do away with them. Yeah. That's very simple. And that solves a problem. You will do it within 18 months then. Do you have a second thought? Do you have a second thought on this? Do away with the tolerance limit. You say with tolerance limit it will cause confusion. So better do away with it. So you follow codex and there is no tolerance limit. Okay, no response. Ms. Alina Wong, your second round. Chairman, I think this one is very important. If there is no tolerance limit, then what does it mean? Say what is said on the label, 1 + 29. What you put on the label should be found in the lab test. It must be exactly the same. Otherwise, then there will be law enforcement, and then the C&E department will sue or will prosecute the seller or producer because your marking does not tally, or rather the test result doesn't tally with your marking. Even if it is just a difference of 0.01%, law will have to be enforced, and then that lot of baby formula will have to be taken down from the shelf. I don't know whether you think that it's the right way. Mr. Shield. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, the question has already, Ms. Wong has already answered Ms. Ho's question. Should we bound? Mr. Shield, no. Ms. Ho's question is, without the tolerance limit, it will make things easier for you. You don't need to reformulate. Chairman, it's very simple. Without tolerance limit, then it makes things simple. You don't need to argue. You just follow the codex. Ms. Wong is very smart. She can tell you that without the tolerance, you have to comply with that exactly. The law enforcement agency will not give any tolerance. It's just very simple. Can the products comply? Today, what was the theme of today's discussion? I think you should speak to the question. I'm the chairman. I chair the meeting. Yes, you're the chairman. You can arrange the meeting. We come here for a purpose. Concerning 18 months or 24 months, there are different views. You can extend it by another 3 months. Or you can shorten it to 2-3 months. The question is whether the sellers can sell all the stock. And then afterward, after 3 months, will the next batch of products be able to come to Hong Kong and be sold in Hong Kong? I agree that breast milk is best. But not too many mothers in Hong Kong are able to breastfeed their child or their children. They have to work. So baby formula is very important to Hong Kong. Should it be 18 months, 24 months? You have to get a reasonable period of time. The trade's point is that you've already gazetted the law. The clock is ticking. And we don't have the guidelines. So how can we comply? I've already given you an example. Last time, you only produce the guideline after 18 months. If you make a decision today, then there may not be any supply of baby formula afterwards. Apart from promoting breastfeeding, there are mothers who cannot breastfeed their children. You really need to give some time to the producers. We have overrun. I have to stop you. I give the floor to Mr. Ho. Then we will draw a line there, and then we will start our discussion with the administration. My apologies. I was late. I originally preferred to speak. I preferred not to speak, but having heard your view on your views, then I want to speak on tolerance. Of course, I support breastfeeding, and I support that value. In fact, I met with Ms. Choi last time. I want to ask the Bureau then, have you considered whether it's feasible, whether you have tolerance limit or not? And you cannot be excessive with regard to intake. Now, if you don't have tolerance limit, then you may have to add more so as to prepare for any deviation or any situation falling below the stipulated amount. And that may be dangerous. Thank you for the question. That's exactly because of what you said and what Ms. Wong said, that the CFS proposes a tolerance limit. There is flexibility with labeling. There is a limit in order to make sure that it will not fall below a certain level. When baby formula is on the shelf for some time, there may be some changes, and therefore we put down the tolerance limit. Concerning the tolerance limits, will it be too loose? Can we narrow down the range? Concerning the technical aspect of the tolerance limit, Dr. Ho can speak on that. Thank you, Chairman. Let me explain the tolerance limit. I've heard that you have some misunderstanding. In fact, it is the enforcement standard in respect of the nutrients. The nutrients may change because of sunshine, temperature, place of origin. The nutrients vary. Say in the materials, in using the materials may come from different sources. Therefore, in the law, we provide for the tolerance limits. Even if the nutrients found in the test do not tally exactly with the nutrients label, there is still a band of tolerance. We've accepted that because they have exercised due diligence in providing the labeling for nutrients. In fact, tolerance limit is not a new thing. That is within our technical guidelines for other types of food products. On this point, I have discussed with the trade many times in the past few months, and I have explained to the trade the factors we take into account, and we adopt the same tolerance limits as other food products. We will adopt the same tolerance limits. As I've said, I have to end this session here. We have overrun. First of all, I would like to thank the deputations for coming. Many are concerned about the Hong Kong Code. I hope you can follow that on other occasions. The health panel will follow that matter up. Thank you very much for coming. You may be excused. Let's move on to the next session. My apologies. We've overrun. There weren't too many members then. I want to extend the meeting to 11:45. Is it agreeable? Okay. So we will have our meeting until 11:45. Anyone who would like to ask questions? Ms. Ho and then Helena Wong. Chairman, I want to clarify. I agree with you that in setting the limit, it cannot be exactly the same. They say that with the tolerance limit, it will cause confusion. Therefore, I want to ask the question whether they want to abolish the tolerance limit. And I thank the officials for putting that issue straight. In fact, the tolerance limit provides flexibility. The tolerance of 80% to 120%, is it too big? Dr. Ho mentioned that nutrients in food, certain nutrients in food may vary. A 20% range proposed by you, is it suitable? Now, the Codex doesn't have a tolerance limit. How do they enforce that? After our previous meeting, there was a supplementary paper. I saw that. How do they enforce the Codex if there is no tolerance limit? When the Codex draws up certain standards, they do not draw up enforcement arrangements. Since the standards are not laws, they don't have enforcement arrangements. And member states will set standards according to their own circumstances. In setting up tolerance limits, we make reference to the U.S., Singapore, European Union, and the mainland. In the past few years, when we enforce the law on food items, on general food items, we found that our tolerance limits are appropriate. The 20% rule, in general, is appropriate because of seasonal change. There may be some loss of nutrients, and the 20% range is appropriate. Now, in Annex 3 of the paper, the U.S., the mainland, Singapore mentioned, and they've adopted a 20% range. Say Singapore, energy, fat, 120%, other nutrients, 80%. As for their penalties, their law enforcement, their testing, I just want to know whether different tests will yield different results. I want the law to be clear and easy to comply with. They say that your guidelines are not ready. When will you have the guidelines ready? The clock has started ticking. And if you publish the guidelines very late, then they will have difficulties to comply. So how soon will you have the guidelines ready? Thank you, Ms. Ho, for the question. In fact, we have heard the demand of the trade on this point. As I said earlier, the CFS has been talking to them. The real thing, the final version, has to be promulgated after the law has been enacted. But as we said, concerning the tests, there are standards already, and the CFS has a draft. The best thing is to ask the CFS to talk to them again and let them see the draft and let them understand this is a draft, though. It will be more or less the same as far as the real thing is concerned. Dr. Ho, this is exactly what I mean. As the Secretary has just said, I will talk to the trade on the draft, and when the law is enacted, then we'll publish the guidelines. In the past, there were laws with guidelines and codes, and guidelines and codes are put before the subcommittee. You don't need to wait for the enactment. You can publish the guidelines first, give them first, let them know, and then that will make things smoother.
Certainly, we can show them the draft. Ms. Helena Wong. Chairman, in fact, no one has objected to the making of the regulation. They just have something to say about the technical guideline and the tolerance limits. They say they do not know exactly what the administration wants to do. In fact, members are in the same category. We don't exactly know what the draft guideline is going to be like. Can you use the time now to talk about the tolerance limits in the proposed guideline? Will you put things in categories or what? And just now, Mr. Wong proposed that it should be set at 80%, but there should be no maximum limit. Can you tell us what you have in mind? What is the justification or rationale behind your proposal? Under Secretary, thank you. Ms. Wong. Last time, after our meeting, we supplied some supplementary information, and in Annex 3, we have given information on the tolerance limits. But let me now ask Dr. Ho to comment on the rationale behind the regulation. Dr. Ho? Yes, on the tolerance limits, we are proposing the same tolerance limits as for other foods. The criterion is that if a nutrient is good for our health, then the tolerance limit should be higher than or 80% higher than the claim. And we are talking about protein, carbohydrates, and dietary fiber. But if a nutrient is going to have harmful effect on health, if there is too much or excessive use, then it should not be more than 100% than the claim. And we are talking about energy and fat. As for added nutrients like vitamins and minerals, if it is added by the producer, there must be accurate labeling, and the content should not be less than what is claimed. This is what it is in a nutshell. Any follow-up? Ms. Helena Wong. Chairman, I can see that it is plus or minus 20%, more or less. My question is, why do you set it at plus or minus 20%? Do you follow the example of other countries? Because there is no guideline in Codex. On what basis do you say this is appropriate or not appropriate? Under Secretary, initially, we understand that this is what is also done in other countries. It is also plus or minus 20% in those countries. And therefore, I believe the CFS has taken reference from the practice in other countries. Chairman, I have a question. Just now, some deputations said that they would like you to also clarify the testing methods so they can follow your technical guideline. So are you going to also propose testing methods so they can keep within the limits? Dr. Ho? As for testing methods, in previous trade forums, we have already had many exchanges with the trade. We make reference to the proposed testing methods in Codex. So we also propose testing methods. But if the trade can make use of other testing methods but come up with equivalent results, in other words, that they are as accurate, then it's all right. But there are many testing methods, just like testing for vitamin A. The Codex has proposed 4 ways to test it. We also told the trade that there are 4 more, which are proposed by an international organization, AOAC. So taking vitamin A alone, there are 8 testing methods that they can choose from. Can you please wait for a second round? Ms. Helena Wong will wait for the second round. But now let me ask a question. We have been hearing worries from the trade about the grace periods, and they are saying they need the technical guideline. You said you would show them the draft very soon. And of course, it would remain a draft in their mind. We wouldn't like them to have an excuse to ask for an extension of the grace period. So I hope you will be fair to them, that you will be pragmatic. Now, this regulation is going to straddle our summer recess, and we may only pass it the soonest in November. But they would have already had 5 months forgone between June and November. I think that is why they are always mentioning the grace period. So let us be pragmatic. Undersecretary, you need to tell us what you can do about this. Number 2, a deputation said that because of the tolerance limit, they need to reformulate the product. But Dr. Ho is really talking about an enforcement standard instead of having to reformulate their products. Is that right? Or else, because they were talking about acceptability tests and whatnot. Number 3, in the paper, it is said that our labeling and composition requirements follow Codex or the EU, but on tolerance limits, they are absent from Codex and the EU. And then in this regard, we follow USA and also Singapore. So why is it that for composition and labeling, we follow Codex and the EU, but for tolerance limits, we follow the example of other people? Why don't we just go for Codex and the EU or the US? Yes, thank you. I'll make some general remarks, and then Dr. Ho can talk about the technical side. We understand that it seems the trade would like to have the technical guideline as soon as possible so they can start working. But as I was saying, in fact, the CFS already has a draft. I hope it will be shown to the trade to reassure them. I hope the parties can work together. But the final version, as we have been saying, we need to have the law passed first before we can issue a final version of the guideline. Dr. Ho, can you supplement? Thank you, Chairman. When we enforce the law, we usually follow Codex. But it doesn't address all our enforcement measures. It might not have standards for certain measures that we adopt, and so we have to look at the international practices, which may not be uniform. Say the EU doesn't have any standards for setting tolerance limits, but it doesn't mean they do not have tolerance limits. As you know, EU is made up of many countries. Each country will enforce the law according to their own actual situation, but we do not have the EU standards as such. Does it mean that your tolerance limits will require them to reformulate their products? Well, if the tolerance limit is lenient, then they will have to reformulate their product. Second round, Ms. Helena Wong, 4 minutes. Chairman, I'd like to ask about para 17D. Vitamin A and D. If there is excessive use or underuse, then it will be bad for health, and the tolerance limit will be 80 to 180%. I'd like to know why the tolerance limit is not plus or minus 20%, but up to 180%. Dr. Ho, this is a technical question. As I was explaining, we have to see whether the nutrient is beneficial or harmful to health. Vitamin A and vitamin D are in a special category. You cannot have too little of it, neither can you have too much of it. So we have to regulate both ends. So why not a plus or minus 20%? Why 180%? As I said, some of the nutrients may be lost during storage in certain products. In order to satisfy the demand, the product might have a shelf life of 2 to 3 years, and they might need to include a certain nutrient in a big amount if there could be some loss of the nutrient over time. Yes, if you limit it too much, if you set it at 120%, then after a year or so, it would have part of it has been lost, and it would not be able to comply with the law. But then you are talking about 80 to 180%. Well, it really depends on what this will have as a matter of health for babies. This range will not affect the baby's health, so we find it acceptable. Any follow-up? I just find this strange. Why the upper limit can be 180%, since you said that overuse will be harmful to health? So why do you want to set the maximum limit at 180%? I still don't understand it. And I also have another question for you. Other added vitamins and minerals, apart from A and D, you do not set tolerance limits for those. Is that right? In other words, what is important is that you must comply with or exceed the claimed limit, but there is no maximum tolerance limit. Why not? Dr. Ho, as I was saying, if the nutrients are beneficial, we would only make sure that there will not be undersupply. For the trade, this means money. They do not have the incentive of putting a lot in without labeling it. So we believe there is no special need to set a minimum limit. Are you saying that they can put in as much as they want, and if it is beneficial to health, you would not regulate it? Is it that the more there is, the more benefits for health? Well, basically, we would require the trade to label the nutrition composition accurately. We do not encourage inaccurate labeling for the purpose of circumventing the law. But in forms of enforcement, we would concentrate on the effect on health made by nutrients. Sorry, your time is almost up. We are at 11:45 already. Could I have the next round? If that's the case, we need to extend the meeting further. If you agree, we can extend the meeting to 12 o'clock. Well, it doesn't matter. If we still have more to talk about, we can schedule another meeting. But it seems in principle, nobody is objecting to the regulation. But you have a whole team of experts here. I'd like to ask more technical issues because we might need to defend the legislation at the council. We have to say why we support it, and we might have to defend it also in the community. So let us try to unify our understanding.
Do you want another round? If then we need to get your agreement, well, we can end our meeting and find another date. I don't want it to rush through. We've already spent so much time. We need to digest it. We shouldn't muddle through. Yes, we will talk about the meeting arrangement. I don't want this paper the discussion on this paper to end without ample discussion. Yes, I agree with you, Ms. Wong. I still have other questions. And we don't have too many members here. And when we have more members, we may have more questions. We have a next meeting to discuss this paper. Even in August, we will not get a full team. So let us have another meeting in September. If need be, we may have one more meeting to discuss this paper. And we will study the regulation as well. We will go on the visit. It will be the last week of September. Yes, the latter part of September. We will try to accommodate as many members as possible instead of just rushing it through, okay? Thank you to the officials and thank you to members for staying until the end.